To order. This is the regular business meeting of the District School Board of Indian River County, Florida. Today is July 28th, 2015. As you can see, since school is not in session, we do not have our regular the students from the ROTC. So I'd like to ask. I believe it's in honor of his 32nd birthday. Retired Army Specialist Charles Searcy to please lead us in the pledge. Will you please stand?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the presents.
Thank you there, young fella. I'd like to ask for moving for the adoption of the orders of the day.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the orders of the day.
Thank you, Ms. Simchek. Do I have a second? Second was
He's fast.
Mr. Searcy. Ms. Simchek, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Searcy, your second?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. We have no presentations tonight. There was one request for citizen input. That is Tiffany Justice. Ms. Justice?
Good evening. I'm just here tonight to say thank you to the district employees and the maintenance employees for working on our school so far this year. I've spoken a couple times. We had some issues that needed to be addressed, and we now have some new tile in classrooms. They're not all done, but we're getting there. I know that Dr. Rendell took a visit at our school and was able to see some of those classrooms, and hopefully we'll continue to have some to have carpet replaced. Our drainage issues have been addressed. We have new sod. We have new paint. It is a step in the right direction for our school, and I thank you for it, and I thank you for all of your hard work, Scott and Mr. Morrison. And you know, I know that you guys have a hard job to do, and there's not a lot of money, and I just really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
This time I'll take a motion on the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Do I have a
Second.
second? Thank you. Who's that, Ms. Simchek? Ms. Jimenez, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Ms. Simchek, your second.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. The first action agenda item is action item A, public hearing and adoption of revisions, repeals, and new school board policies. Dr. Rendell?
We held a
Go ahead. Yeah.
meeting earlier in June to review some board policies that need to be updated as a result of state legislation to make sure that we're in compliance with state statutes and policies. So I moved that we approve the adoption of those revisions to our school board policies.
All right. Apologize about that. I got lost on the thing. This item deals with the revisions, repeals, and new school board policies. Dr. Rendell, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes, we have.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Rendell, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
We have not received any, no.
The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there an individual representing an organization or his own personal or public interest who wishes to speak? Seeing none, the chair concludes that the announced public hearing on policy revisions has been conducted pursuant to notice and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. Board members, I'll ask for a motion at this time.
Move approval.
Mr. Frost, second. Do I need a second?
Second.
Mr. Searcy? Mr. Frost, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
Mr. Searcy, your second.
No.
Any further discussion? Ms. Jimenez?
I just have a comment. I just wanted to show you what we're approving. These are the changes to the policy, but I wanted to thank the staff. Lately, when we have these types of reviews, there's always a document that has a summary of the major changes. And that, you know, should be helpful to the community because that's one of the things that we do as board members is set policy, modify it, and make it relevant to our students. So thank you to staff for providing us that little cheat sheet because that's a lot of reading. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is item B, approval of the 2015-16 Schoolhouse Consulting Group. This is my item. This contract renewals for July 15 through June 30, 2016 for legislative services to the Treasure Coast Work Group. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Simchick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Ms. Simchick, would you like to speak to your motion?
Well, I do want to say that Mr. Crawford's summaries and caps of legislation and issues brought before us have been very helpful and prorated into the cost with the other school districts. The amount we are paying is prorated with the other districts, and I feel that's reasonable for the services we are receiving and the information, I should say, that we're receiving, and how we are connected to everything that's being brought forward, which is a lot of information. I think that it's value.
Ms. Jimenez, your second?
Yes, I too would like to speak on behalf of the value that Mr. Crawford does. We're able to call him, maybe we have questions about what's going on legislatively, and whenever we're in Tallahassee, he's more than willing to help us get in touch with our legislators and to explain issues and what's going on. So I will be supporting this motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is the approval to amend agreement for architectural services with CM Crawford Architect, Inc. for Citrus Elementary. Dr. Rendell?
Thank you, Chairman McCain. As you know, we were undergoing some construction and renovation projects, expansion projects actually, at Citrus Elementary, and we're moving from a 12 classroom building now to a 16 classroom building, so that's increased cost. So this amendment is to handle the increased cost for that, and I recommend approval of that.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Claudia? Mr. Frost, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
Ms. Jimenez, your second?
Yes, just an explanation why the change, why the need for to amend it and make that change now.
Well, basically, Citrus is expanding. Mr. Morrison, do you want to give any background?
Yes, at the official count in February, Citrus Elementary had over 709 students on that campus. We've got 12 portables that will be replaced with permanent housing. In fact, it just came to me that we had to add another portable because of the projected growth for the opening of schools. So Dr. Renner is absolutely correct in that campus is experiencing growth. So we're trying to get some permanent space and get rid of the portables.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Harrison?
We didn't know about that before we developed the plans to build that new facility.
As you know, planning for construction projects takes quite a couple of years in the making. At the time, I believe we had a lesser FTE at the school, and it's experienced growth over the last year or so, which has necessitated us to be putting in portables. So we figured that going to 16 classrooms based on meetings with the principals, the projected FTE, and also the programming space that is needed for that school, we had to go to 16. So it's not that we could see look through the crystal ball 2 years ahead and see 790 coming up.
What's the cost of the 4 new classrooms? I mean, is that on the capital outlay budget? I didn't notice it. But
Yeah, this is on the capital outlay budget. In your budget book, on the capital outlay budget book, it is allocated. Dollars are allocated for that project to go to 16 classrooms. Yes, sir.
And how much? Just right off the top of your head, how much was it? Is that $3 million?
The difference in the cost is there in the summary. The difference in
For the
going
architect
from
fees.
12 to 16 classrooms is $86,488. And that's all the amendment's asking for right there in the design services.
That's the architect.
Mr. Chairman, don't we have some numbers that we like to keep in the elementary schools? I mean, a certain, like a 750 max.
750 is the optimal amount because at that point the FTE pays for the operation of the school. 750 is an optimal amount. Yes.
And the number you said that Citrus was going to have after this, it was 709 or 790?
They're currently at 709 and projected to grow into probably about 790 once we approve this.
Wow.
Any further discussion? Ms. Jimenez?
I mean, this is not germane to this right now, but I think it would be interesting for us to talk a little bit about this maybe at a discussion session, because I think going to 790 That's a lot in the elementary schools. Even 750 is a lot, and that just has an impact on the ability to engage kids, for teachers, and so on. So, at this point, this is not the place for the discussion, unfortunately, but I think that we should look at this in the future, because 790 is a lot of little ones in those schools. So,
Any further discussion?
can Ms. Stang put it in as one of my items for the next discussion? Because I'll forget. I don't want to forget. Thank you, sorry.
Then we have other schools that have 400, 450 or something. Well, I don't know what Dodgertown's got, but it's very low
Dodgertown
numbers.
would be one of those schools that are not fully enrolled. We do have a couple schools around the district that are elementary that are under-enrolled, below the 750, yes.
And is the growth that's coming into Citrus, is that from in their district
Zone.
area or zone? We might need to take a look at that.
Redistricting's
Zones.
fun.
Zone.
Going through that.
As long as you're chairman.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be next year. All right, any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is item D, the approval of change order to Pirtle Construction Company for admin complex project. Dr. Rendell?
Yeah, this change order is necessary for some IT upgrades that we're doing at the new administration complex. They were originally bid at one process, and when we asked for them to rebid, it came in at a different rate. So that's what the need for the change order is.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move approval?
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Ms. Simchak. Ms. Jimenez, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Ms. Simchak, your second?
Yes, we're very lucky that Perkel agreed to honor the first quote first time around. We thought we could get a better price. Those things happen, and I do say it's good that we tried. But we could have been blasted on the back end from Perkel, and my thanks to Perkel for keeping the cost at the same original quote.
Any further
appreciate that.
discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I will not be voting in favor of this simply on principle that it's for an administration complex. When I hear about students arriving to class with wet feet in our schools, I know that these are rounds downrange, and that I'm not going to stop the administration building, but in good conscience, I can't vote in favor of spending more money on an overrun. But I appreciate the work that's gone into this.
Any further discussion? Ms. Harrison?
Do we think that 6 million 10 is going to be the total out the door cost?
The 611, yes, sir.
Well, 611, yeah, okay, that's close, yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none.
I would like to comment
Beth?
that because I don't want to. I respect my fellow board members' feelings and everything, but if we don't vote on this tonight, then the new administration building, that's walls are up, and beginning to finish, that it won't have at all. If we don't, this whether it's this vendor or any other vendor, that building will have no IT, no wiring, all the things that it covers. So it's, although I can appreciate, students and you're in principle what you're saying, but if we vote no on this, because by the way, we went to other vendors and it was higher, if we vote for going to the lowest against, or if I vote against going to the lowest vendor, or the board corporate votes, this building will have nothing. So I do want to say that I don't want it to sound that I'm not empathetic to children in rain and things like that, but that's where we're at. It's a half-built building. It was supposed to get wiring and IT upgrades, and not upgrades, excuse me, and that it has to be put in, and that this is now the lowest bidder again. So we will be going to the lowest bidder tonight in this change order.
And
Any further?
I would just like to clarify that I respect the votes
Sure.
of the other board members and understand your reasons for making them, and I appreciate you respecting mine. Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
4-1, Ms. Stang. Next item is item E, the approval of correct Appendix A for revised and restated joint fiber optics project, interlocal agreement. Dr. Rendell?
Basically, this is a cleanup of paperwork. Appendix A had a misstatement, and we've cleaned that up and asked you to approve the new Appendix A with the new cleaned up language. It does not cost us any money.
Entertain a motion at this time.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Frost. Have a second?
Second.
Claudia? Frost, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
Mr. Menace, your second? No, thank you. Anything further?
I have one question. It's my understanding that this is just reworking the fiber optics program or lines that we have now. Really, no equipment comes with it. It's all what's in the ground now, correct? And it's a timing issue.
Yeah, that's a later
This-
issue. This is just a
Oh,
change in
that's
the
the county
paperwork
one. I'm
with the local
sorry.
agreement.
I don't have anything to say on that then. Obviously, I'm moving on to something else.
Anything further?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is item F, the approval to issue purchase order to various vendors for recurring expenses. Dr. Rendell?
Right, by board policy, we are limited in the amount of purchase orders that we can approve without board approval, and it's limited at $50,000. And there are times when we need to, often actually, where we need to request or approve purchase orders that exceed that amount, so we're just asking for permission to do that. We've actually created a list of projects and vendors that would fall under that guideline, so it's not like we would just go out and spend $50,000 on whatever we want. Everything that we request or approve purchase orders for still comes before you for approval as well. So that's basically what this purchase order request is for.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell. Entertain a motion at this time.
Move approval?
Thank you, Ms. Menace.
Second.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Simchek. Ms. Menace, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, just briefly, this is one of those issues that I always get stuck on because I think it's so important to be transparent about all these expenses, and I feel uncomfortable with things beyond 50,000 being, go for it. But I do think that because we have a list of what those items are, I know last year one of the concerns was legal fees being there because we had so many issues about our legal expenditures, and that no longer is on the list. And so I feel comfortable supporting this motion because we need to make sure that staff is able to do their work, and they are professionals, and we need to be able to trust that they are going to do the right thing. So I am totally comfortable with it, and I appreciate the board's support last year in terms of making sure that we have better awareness of our legal expenditures. So I will be supporting this motion.
Ms. Simchek, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, I do. Would any of these, such as utilities, or any of these expenditures be able to be paid through a credit card with a cash back?
It's not for lack of trying, but we have actually asked FPNL if they would take our credit card to pay our electricity bill, and they refuse. So it's not for lack of trying.
All right, thank you. Thank you for trying.
Any further questions or comments?
Is the $50,000, that's board policy?
Yes, sir. So your question could be, could we change board policy?
Well, the question is, did we?
Yeah,
And
we did.
did we, in this policy that we just approved tonight, it's not been changed?
May I?
Yes, sir.
That policy was changed, how many years ago? 2, 3?
Up to $50,000.
Up to, previously it was 25. It was 25. We doubled it. What happened, it was 25,000, and you end up having so many board items because everything's got to come through as some, just regular maintenance stuff. The board felt at that time to go to 50,000, that we were comfortable with it. Again, if we want to discuss that, that can be discussed at a later date, as part of policy.
Well, I'm not going to support the issue then.
Ms. Menace?
Yeah, and I think it's important to realize also that we're talking about recurring expenses. If they were non-recurring expenses, they would definitely have to come before the board. So these are expenses that are just procedural for the board.
Any further questions?
How is this different than a blank check?
That's exactly right.
Just help me understand.
Okay, first of all, there's a list of the things that you're approving us to exceed that amount for. So it's not really
Right,
just a blank
yeah.
check. There's a list of things that we can continually go over $50,000 for. So basically, we're saying we're going to go ahead and give the superintendent the authority to issue those purchase orders prior to board approval, which is before we would have a long list of all the things you'd have to approve. I mean, we couldn't issue any of those purchase orders until we had board approval. So this is going to streamline the process, and we're not going to be spending money on anything we're not already spending money on, and spending more money on anything that we're not already spending money on.
When we discussed this, I was hoping that the board going forward would have more of a, like a realized budget with variance, and then there's accruals, and we can see how much is in the copier budget up until that point. And I know that I'm learning that this is a very bizarre financing situation in public education. But I'm hopeful that with those assurances from the superintendent, that we will receive those variances and we'll see what's coming and how each of these line items is changing with a variance, that that makes me more comfortable in supporting this motion. Is that something we can count on, Mr.?
It's like a bookkeeping report. Yes, we can make sure we
Okay.
keep everybody up to date.
On a monthly, quarterly?
I'll get with Mr. Morrison and we'll come up with what's reasonable.
Operationally defined reasonable. Is it
If it can
quarterly?
be monthly, it'll be monthly.
Okay. Monthly is preferred, but quarterly is good.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and just so you know, when I first got on the board, I asked Mr. DeGutis what my login was for the GL system. I thought I'd be able to get in there and drill down on accounts and things, and it didn't work that way. Ms. Jimenez?
Yeah, and I just think to assuage those concerns, when you look at the action item, it does actually tell us what the
Right.
amount is. So we do know, we have a ballpark comparing last year, the 2013 to the 2014-15 to the 2015-16. So it's not a blank check because we know what those amounts are. But I hear what you're saying. It'd be good to know how we're doing with each of the items. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure. And someone very wise once said, "Trust but verify." So
Understood.
Excuse me.
I do
can
trust.
I think, all in all, in layman's terms, what we're approving really is a blanket purchase order for this guesstimated amount, but Mr. Frost is asking for, a status of where we're at and the buy down from the blanket, so to speak.
Well, I think it'd be basically in all accounts, he's asking for
Well, that would be ideal, but in particular these for which we're giving sort of
Yep.
carte blanche.
Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
4-1, Ms. Stang. Item G is the approval to renew RFQ 2013-22 for architectural services for small and large projects with multiple architectural firms. Dr. Rendell?
This one's a little more complicated, so I'm going to let Mr. Morrison take this from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rendell. What we're asking for board tonight is approval to renew the RFQ 2013-22 for large and small projects. We have estimated that small projects are defined as construction projects which are less than $500,000. For the large projects, we have recommended BRPH, Donati and Associates, Harvard Jolly and Song and Associates. For small projects, we have recommended BRPH, Harvard Jolly, Song and Associates, and Edlin Drittenbass. To answer the question before it is asked, BRPH is from Palm Beach County, Donati and Associates is local, and Edlin Drittenbass is local. Thank you.
Entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Simchek. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Ms. Simchek, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Ms. Jimenez, your second.
No, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is item H, approval to dispose of surplus property. Dr. Rendell?
Thank you, Chairman McCain. The surplus property that's in question, or it's in item H, are 2 school buses that we hope to donate to the Gifford Youth Achievement Center. These buses would have been declared surplus by the Transportation Department. Our buses actually have a shelf life. We are not allowed to use them after a certain number of years and certain number of miles. So typically we end up auctioning these off. And instead we had a request from the Gifford Youth Achievement Center for 2 of these buses to be used to transport children to and from the center. And so I'm recommending that we dispose of the surplus property by donating it to the GYAC.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Simchek. Mr. Frost, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sounds like a good use of excess gear. Thank you.
Ms. Simchek, your second.
Yes, I approve, especially since they are so involved in the after-school activities and youth development.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Stang. Next item is item I, the approval to piggyback Indian River County bid, whatever, and to issue a PO to Precision Contracting Services. Dr. Rendell.
Again, this one's fairly complicated, so I'm going to have Mr. Green take this one.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell, board members. If we can go ahead and put the screen up for the viewing public and board members, there are some charts that we'll be looking at over here, and the same will be up for the viewing public. About 25 years ago, this school board, the city and county, had the foresight to enter into an agreement and develop a fiber optic network connecting our facilities, our government facilities, our school board facilities. And we've leveraged that for a long time. About 4 years ago, when I took over this position, one of the first things I started looking at was the need that end equipment, and we talk about infrastructure a lot. This is a prime example of what technology infrastructure is. The equipment at the schools was aging. The fiber configuration was limited. Let me give you an example. When you look at this configuration, this is the green over here, you can see that it's very tightly compact, and a lot of fiber are running to this facility. And then we have what we call a star or spoke configuration. So if we were to get a cut on 49th Street currently, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 facilities that would be down. And today, being down means different than it did 25 years ago. Today we have our phone system, our internet, our computers, our security cameras, our fire alarms. We are a converged, unified communication network, so we leverage that fiber, and it's wonderful. We don't have to lay multiple cables and pay for that, but we need to protect the investment at those schools. So about 4 years ago, we started saying, how can we upgrade this network and get some redundancy and be able to move forward with the bandwidth requirements? So we started looking at how